Good morning, children. 8th grade Biological Science. Welcome to the chapter 8 Cell Structure and Functions. Dear students, today in this module, let us continue previous videos with the new concept, types of cells, shape of cells, and size of cells. Before that, let us have a quick review on different types of microscopes. What do you see on the screen, students? Yeah, microscope. What is microscope? Students, a device which can be used to observe the structure of microscopic organisms is called microscope. Cells are studied with the help of microscope. Here, microscopes are high resolution instruments mainly which are used for observing the fine details of every minute object. Means the organism which cannot be seen by our naked eye can be clearly observed by this instrument called microscope. This is advanced modern microscope called compound microscope. Is it clear, students? Before, in the previous video, I shown you Antony van Leeuwenhoek's microscope, isn't it? In those hands, before the science was developed, those microscope were used. But after the 115 years, this microscope was invented, and this is called compound microscope. Very thin and small tiny objects also can be clearly studied in detail by another microscope called electron microscope. Please have a sharp look on the screen, students. That is electron microscope. What is the function of this electron microscope? Yeah, this electron microscope is a very large instrument mainly which helps in observing various internal parts of the cell like organelles. It uses electromagnets instead of glass lens and a beam of electrons instead of light for observation of these tiny objects. Do you know, students, in compound microscope, magnification power of a compound microscope ranges from 100 to 1500 times double. But here if you observe in electron microscope, nearly the power of magnification of this electron microscope is from 1 lakh to 5 lakhs times double. It means just you imagine how this compound microscope and electron microscope are developed to prove the scientific facts and to observe and develop the scientific knowledge. Isn't it, students? Yeah. With this microscope, how can we observe the shape, types and sizes of the cells? Let us know now. Students, depending upon the number of cells are of two types. Those are unicellular cells and multicellular cells. What do you see on the screen? You can observe amoeba, paramecium. You tell me, students, what type of organisms these are? Are they unicellular or multicellular? Yeah, you are all right. These are unicellular organisms. What is the definition of unicellular organisms, Nana? Organisms made up of a single cell are called unicellular organisms. For example, amoeba, paramecium, euglena, bacteria, yeast are the few examples of unicellular organisms. Students, this single cell of these organisms behave like a complete organism. Is it clear, Nana? So all of these basic functions of living beings like digestion, respiration, excretion, what else? Reproduction are performed by this single cell itself. Is it clear? For example, we have studied in our earlier classes about amoeba. Amoeba is unicellular organism which you can see on the screen. So it performs all the functions like taking in food, which we call it as ingestion, means digestion. So respiration, movement with the help of pseudopodias, growth and reproduction can take place with a single cell. Is it clear? Yeah. Now let us see multicellular organisms. Students, multicellular organism. What are multicellular organisms? Organisms made up of many cells are called multicellular organisms. Most of the plants, animals that we see around us. What do you see around you? Can you tell me some multicellular organisms? Yeah, trees, grasses, insects, cows, birds. Yeah, your mom, father, all these together comes under humans, isn't it? So these are the few examples of multicellular organisms. Are you single cellular organism or multicellular organism, Nana? Yeah, you are multicellular organism. Right. All multicellular organisms began their life as a single cell called the fertilized egg cell or zygote. So students, here this fertilized egg multiplies and number of cells increases as development of organism proceeds. So all multicellular organisms including human beings show division of labor. You will learn more about this cell division in your higher classes, students. It means the different parts of your multicellular organisms perform different functions. For example, like in amoeba, a human body has stomach to digest, which I shown you in the previous video, to digest the food, a heart to pump the blood, bones and muscles to perform movements, and so on. Isn't it, students? So this is about the difference between unicellular and multicellular organisms. So the organisms are categorized depending upon types of cells. Is it clear, Nana? Good. Students, listen to me. Do these unicellular organisms perform all the functions like us? Yes. A single cell organism performs all the necessary functions that multicellular organisms perform. They capture and digest food, respire throughout their waste material and reproduce. In multicellular organisms, these functions are carried out by group of specialized cells performing tissues, which in terms of organs. Students, look at the screen. What do you see? Here, one student is observing the slide on the microscope. Yes, students. Can you observe through the microscope the shape of the cell? Then tell me, Nana, what about the shape of these cells? Yeah, different cells have different shapes. Observe on the screen. Blood cells, muscle cells and nerve cells of human beings have specific shapes, isn't it? But students, what do you see on the screen? Yeah, amoeba unicellular organism. But this amoeba has no definite shape. It's irregular in shape. It keeps on changing its shape. You can observe the part of amoeba protruding out of its body. Can you see on the screen, students? These are called pseudopodia. What is mean by pseudopodia, Nana? Pseudo means false and podia means feet. It's a false feet. So these projections appear and disappear as amoeba moves or feeds. Is it clear? A white blood cells or WBC in human blood is another example of a single cell. Can you see, students? Which can change its shape. It shall be noted that WBC is a cell, but amoeba is a fully captured organism and it can live independent existence can be seen. Shape of cell can be round, spherical or elongated. Observe on the screen, students. Some cells like muscle cells are long and pointed at both ends. Cells are spherical and nerve cells are branched. Students, what do you observe under the microscope when you are observing the slide of the cell? What about their sizes? Yeah, sizes of cells also vary, but most of the cells are microscopic in size and we need a microscope to see them. Students, is it that if my body is big, then the size of the cell is also big? No, size of the cell does not depend on the size of the body of an organism. Here, the size of the cells in an elephant, human body and a bird differs slightly, but they are not in proportion to their body size. Okay, students? Yes, students, is it clear? The size of the cells in an elephant, human body and a bird differ slightly, but they are not in proportion to their body size. The size of the cell is related to its function. Here, the nerve cells in an elephant and a rat are longer than the blood cells. Do you know why? Because the nerve cells have more complex functions than the blood cells. Students, do you know that hen's egg is a single cell? Hen's egg is one of the single cells that can be seen with our naked eye. It's really great to know this, isn't it? Is it clear, student? Types of cells, shape of cell, size of cells. Thank you for watching the video.